The first one is assessing management integrity. This is evaluating the tone at the top. Bottom up. Someone's like, oh, that makes sense now. Finally, I got it. After you evaluate their integrity, then you go through and you figure out their credentials. How might I evaluate whether or not they are technically or financially competent to run their organization? What do you guys give to recruiters when they're interviewing you?
The resume.
A resume. So maybe you look at the resume of management. What jobs have they had? What are they certified in? Things like that. So you need to assess management's background. Once you've assessed their background, then you get into reviewing the internal control system. This is where you're going to evaluate if they have controls and processes in place. The fourth step is what we call compliance testing. Do not get this confused with a compliance audit. Compliance testing in a financial statement audit is where you are actually testing the transactions and the numbers in the financial statement. And then last but not least, you issue the report. And that report has an opinion in it that describes your work and your evaluation of the company's financial statements. You do not need to know what the different opinions are. Okay. All right, so that's got us through the generic audit steps, the definition, and the order. Then we're going to move into the 5 assertions tested during compliance testing. So during compliance testing is when you are actually out there looking at the numbers and making sure the numbers on the financial statements are correct. The tests that you perform are done to achieve one or more of these 5 standards. Or 5 standards. They are, or assertions, one or more of the 5 assertions. The first one is existence or occurrence. So what do we do with inventory or equipment to make sure it exists? We count it or we look at it. We go visually validate that it's there. Okay? That's your existence. Rights and obligations. We make sure that we have a right to something. So if we're receiving product that we bought, maybe we bought a bunch of material, we would go look at the shipping document to make sure ownership is transferred.
How would we do that on a service-oriented company?
If it was a service, you would confirm that the service was completed or delivered. A lot of times, especially if it's like system implementation work, you will have milestone sign-off by your customer, or you will have some kind of acceptance document that identifies you completed the work. Like if you've ever had repairs done, when you pick up your car, you sign for it saying I'm accepting it. That would validate that they have completed the work. The next one is valuation and allocation. So let's say we're a jewelry store, and there's lots of diamonds and gold and all sorts of stuff on our balance sheet as products that we sell. You might go have an appraiser value that stuff to make sure it's properly valued on your balance sheet. Bring in an independent appraiser. The next one was completeness. You can get completeness by checking for a full set of transactions or check numbers by using their reference numbers. And then we get to presentation and disclosure, which is just reading the financial statement footnotes to make sure everything is presented properly in accordance with that. So that management hasn't described something one way but presented a number a different way. All right, then last but not least in Chapter 18, we revisit Sarbanes-Oxley. And on slide number 23, I have listed a few sections of the Sarbanes-Oxley Act. The three sections I want you to know is 302, 404, and 802. 302, 404, and 802. is the certification, or the section that requires the CEO and CFO to do their certification of the controls. So 302 is the CEO and CFO certification. Section 404 is the section that requires companies to assess and evaluate their internal controls. Does anybody remember what 803 does?
Penalties.
Penalties. It's the jail, time, the fines, that kind of stuff, for not complying. It's probably not clear. Alright, so 18 is a little bit meatier. Like I said, it's typically the one people struggle the most with in this group chapter. Alright, we got one more chapter to go and 11 questions. Now, last chapter was chapter 15. Chapter 15 was all around computer crime and security. Computer crime, the definition, an illegal act carried out on or by means of a computer. An illegal act carried out on or by means of a computer. Go back through chapter 15 and look at the 11 types of business risks and threats. Make sure you are familiar with them. So, for example,